No big
Okay.
deal.
Perfect.
Oh my goodness, it's happening. So happy. Oh God, this meeting is being live streamed. Okay, got it. All right, it seems live. Jen, we did it. I'm so excited to have you here, Jen. But to everybody else, we're gonna talk about book writing at its finest with technology. We all know that technology is around us everywhere, whether we like it or not. And we have here a Jen who's gonna share her expertise and tips and every question that you might have about writing your book and having it out there. Without further ado, thank you, Jen. How are you doing? Welcome.
Hi, Karina. I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yes, we have a lot of questions, as you can probably imagine. And definitely, I wanna, I guess, to have everyone hear about your story. Let us know what got you into book writing, what got you to say, hey, I can do this, I can help others. So please do share.
Alrighty. So I have loved telling stories since I was really young and in all different forms, writing, but also acting and directing and in all different things. So I studied several styles and several forms of writing throughout my life. And then I got to like fast forward. And as someone who does a lot of creative things, you can imagine I'm not like the best with the business part. So I realized one day during COVID that I really, really needed some help as far as wealth building and getting myself on my feet. So I found this group that was an entrepreneurship and wealth building group that uses mainly real estate as a way to build wealth. I'm not a real estate person, but I joined this group and I was determined to figure out how I was going to, get myself on my feet and just have a steady income and not have to worry about money anymore. So the leader of the group was getting to know me and he was trying to figure out how to help me. And then at one point, a couple months in, he had come out with a book. And it was before he published it, so he wanted people in the community to read it and give him feedback. So I was finally like,
my moment.
Yeah, seriously, it's like my moment to shine. And I've been like, just everybody in the group loved real estate and, stuff that I find, frankly, a little boring. So I ended up editing his book. And when he saw the work that I had done, he was like, okay, well, you were going to start a ghostwriting business. And I was like, I guess I'm going to start a ghostwriting business. And he's like, and here are your clients. He got me a bunch of clients and he really walked me through the way to start a business and to run a business. And he became my business partner. So that's how I did it. And it's really exciting. Our motto at Gems Pen is we help people who help people help more people. So that's what we like to do over here.
Yes, and that is fascinating. And it's out of magic. You feel it was the perfect timing and the perfect process, right?
It was exactly what it was supposed to be.
Yes,
it was wonderful.
Yes. And I want to ask you about basically the book writing journey. So there is a lot of misconception, and one of the main reasons we're going to touch base on ChatGPT for those of you who are listening. It's coming. It's going to be
it's coming.
It's coming. But Jen, when a book writer starts their journey, what are the biggest misconceptions in your opinion?
The biggest misconceptions, I believe, well, the first one is that writing is easy. And it takes a second. You can write things in a second, but to write well, it takes time. It's a craft. It's something you learn. You learn about not just grammar and structure and formatting, but also how to flow something and how to make it sound good, obviously. So it's funny because people think that writing is just someone standing at a keyboard or sitting at a keyboard being like, but really, writing is more like this. And you sit there and you ponder like a word for like 20 minutes, maybe not 20 minutes, but like 2 minutes, trying to figure out how to do it. So it is a skill that you have to acquire if you want to do it well. That's probably the biggest misconception, that it's easy and that it's quick.
Yeah, I also feel that do you feel that that's like playing an instrument? And I'll explain. Some people are natural when it comes to instrument and music,
Yes.
others when singing. Does that happen also with writing, Jen?
Yeah, it totally does. I mean, I think in any creative pursuit, you have people who are just have a natural talent for it, a natural ability. So, I mean, I definitely started out with a natural ability in the creative field. But on top of that, you can't just rely on the natural ability. There are things that a craft you have to learn. But yes, it's 100%. There are people who are better at it than others.
No, it's like, and you know what? I believe what you said too. The practice, the more you do it,
Practice.
you're gonna develop that, like anything, you know, in life.
Yeah.
And one thing also, I was thinking when we talked yesterday, I was thinking about writer's block. Yeah, so I feel like it, because I was like, okay, what if I had to write a book? And probably one of the questions that I have for you is, what are like the best tips to overcome that writer's block that many of us have, including myself? What would you say to that?
That's a question I get like asked a lot. It's a good one. A lot of people, like most people, come up against it, and I'm going to explain my answer, but really, it's just write, and it doesn't matter what you're writing. The reason people get writer's block in general is that they're worried that it's not good enough. You know what I mean? Like they are worried someone's going to read it. That's sort of where that comes from. And really, if you just get going, and you can, I mean, literally write like la 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 until something comes to your head. You know what I mean? Just like, and you don't have to write whatever it is that you want to be writing about. You don't have to start out writing. You can just about that. You can just start talking about your day or whatever. Get yourself in the flow of it so you gain some momentum. But the biggest thing is, don't worry about your rough draft. Like, just put all the ideas down on paper and then go back and rearrange them, structure them. Well, personally, I do outlines first. Outlines help with everything. Some writers don't do that, but outlines will help you structure and form your ideas, and you'll be able to follow through the concepts and the thoughts more logically, from like where you should begin to where you end. And if you do an outline right, really writing is just kind of like the ornaments on the tree. That's how I sort of think about it. Like, the outline is the tree, and then, okay, we've got the tree, we know the shape of it, we know what it's going to look like, sort of, let's just put the ornaments around it. You know what I mean? Like, let's make it sound good. But it's helpful when you know where you're going to start and where you're going. But again, like, just I call it, this is going to little gross, but like it's like word vomit onto just put it, and like, and I say that word just because, like, to like just really emphasize the fact that it doesn't have to be good. Just put it on the page, put your thoughts down, and then once the thoughts are down, you can go back to them. No one has to read this. No one's, you know what I mean? Like, no one's gonna read it. Don't like harp on a sentence for like 2 hours and then give up. Just put the ideas on the paper.
That's amazing. You mentioned two things that is going to stay with me. At least I hope the audience also got this. The part of just do it, just write it. Even like you say, la la la, it's okay. And yeah, the ornaments, the tree, the Christmas tree, and the ornament. That analogy is fantastic, because it is so true. Even like at schoolwork, you have absolutely, you have an outline, right? Mm-hmm. And what's around, it's the writing in between that outline that makes the whole structure, the artwork, no? Yeah,
it's 100%. That's 100% what it is. If you have a place to start and a place to go, you know how to get there, you know?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Love it. Thank you so much. Those are a question that I'm sure a lot of people have out there about writing. If writer's block, it's there.
Yeah, I'm so glad that I could help.
No, so absolutely fun. It's a very good deal. There's also one thing that I noticed too with this new craze. We know where we're going to ChatGPT. It's flooded. The internet is flooded with these videos, and yes, I mean, they're meant to be helpful, but I feel that there's so much left out when you say, "Oh, you can write a book with ChatGPT," and they show it the screen going up 1,000 miles per minute. there's so much more to that, and you and I know it. I mean, and
Mhm.
I do want to, I guess the biggest takeaway that I want to bring here is that you can use technology until a certain point.
Mhm.
You cannot rely on technology to do 100% of the work. So I guess the question will be, how have you used ChatGPT, or how would you recommend somebody that's starting the book writing? How will they use ChatGPT, and any tips along the way?
ChatGPT, you could write an entire book with it if you don't care what the book is like. You know what I mean? Like if you don't care and you just want a book, you could use it, whatever. But ChatGPT, I've been experimenting quite a bit with it, because my business, we write business books, and I have a very specific system that I go through using the transcript, creating an outline, gathering all the information in a certain structure. So what I've ended up doing is giving very specific directions to the chatbot. So I'm not going to just say, especially if I'm writing in the voice of someone else, the ChatGPT is not going to write in a voice. You can tell. If I write like, the author is a sassy stay-at-home mom who wants to teach other stay-at-home moms to invest in real estate, it'll come up with, as a sassy stay-at-home mom who wants to teach other people. You're like, no. So what I sort of am working on, because it's so new and I'm developing the system, but what it seems to be working for me is I put in what the book is about, who the audience is, what the book's meant to do, what the chapter's about, and what the section's about. And then I say, I give it a bunch of information from the transcript and say, reword this using as much of the phrasing as possible. And then it'll do that, and it aggregates the information, and that's what it's useful for. I have noticed, though, just recently, yesterday when I was working up with it, it doesn't necessarily structure it in the best way. It depends. I mean, if you want a bullet point list, yeah, you can get a bullet point list, but it doesn't seem to think about like, okay, it makes more sense to present this first, and in this paragraph there should only be one idea, because every paragraph should have one idea. You know what I mean? And then go to the next paragraph if you're bringing in another. So it doesn't really get that. And as I went through it and I used it, I had to go back to the transcript and kind of go between the two and make sure that it sounded like the person, and it gave all the information that I needed it to give. But that's how I'm using it right now, is just to get specific about, write a section. You can't write a chapter with it. You can't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's the entire chapter is too much information for it to really handle. So I go section by section. So I say, write a section in a chapter in a book. The book is about, like I said, the book is about this. This is the audience, geared towards them. The author is a sassy stay-at-home mom. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you give it an idea of, like, so it has an idea. Like, one of my clients, he sort of described himself as a redneck real estate investor. And so I typed in redneck real estate investor, and it was like, howdy, y'all. You know what I mean? It does that sort of thing. It's really funny. And I even actually the other day typed in the person, the author is a type 8 on the Enneagram profile, like personality scale, the profile, and it started typing words and phrases that someone of that personality would use. So it knows a lot of stuff. So it can give you ideas, but it's not going to write a good book.
Thank you. And yeah, and I did notice that. I actually launched another tutorial on ChatGPT 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And actually yesterday, my bad. So yesterday it came out, and as I was doing this tutorial, Jenny, I was, thinking about this, because it does redact when you read it.
Oh, you're frozen, Karina. Oh no. Karina is frozen.
Translations.
Karina, you just froze for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. So
It's okay.
yeah,
No. So that
where
was
did I leave you?
you left off around you noticed that it was like you noticed that and then it kind of cut out.
Yeah, the mechanical tone. When I was
Yes.
on the tutorial from yesterday, the ChatGPT is a quick introduction of the many things that it can do. And it was almost funny that the personalization, and like I mentioned, even there, even somebody that knows about writing, even somebody that is an avid reader, somebody that reads a lot, they could feel that a machine is behind these words. It's not
Yes.
a human. So it's important to, I guess it's very important for everybody out there that are thinking about writing a book and going through this amazing journey. So yes, you can use the technology, but again, it's not gonna be the best work is your work, your own words, your soul. Put your soul in that book, and I promise you, people are gonna capture that and they're gonna feel connected with you through that. So excellent. So another thing that I wanted to mention. So you have seen book writers all over every type, shape, or form. What are, in your opinion, the most common traits or the most common, I don't know, things that the successful book writers usually have? Well, in your opinion, what sets them apart?
One of the things is okay, so we're talking about a very specific kind of book right now. We're talking about a book that moves your business forward, right? So it's a book that sells you. What I find that is important, well, number one, you're going to be using personal stories to describe how you learn these lessons. A lot of people want to make themselves look perfect and like they never made mistakes. And that's just not true. And people aren't going to relate to that. If you put forward your the pain points, and discuss a mistake you made or something bad that happened, and that this is how you learned this lesson, people are going to relate to you more. They're going to be drawn into the book more. You don't learn by having information thrown at you. You learn by honestly telling stories. That's how it's going to stay in our brain. And they have to be memorable stories. They have to be something that the people can relate to. The people reading it can relate to, and people that they can be kind of excited, like, okay, I can avoid that. You know what I mean? Like, that's a mistake I can avoid. That's a big one. The other is obviously the information, and it has to be accurate and interesting. It has to be clear. Like you have to make sure the writing is clear. That it's, and the advice you give it has to be actionable. So people should be able to read the book, put it down, and go take action based on the information that you gave them clearly, and not have to think too much about it. Oh, okay, I got to go, even if it's to this website, and look at this person's, whatever it is. And you have to care about the reader. You are writing this book to help the reader. So you're talking to the reader. And that's how you write. You write like you're just having a conversation with a friend. The language is a bit more elevated and the structure is better, but the tone, you know what I mean, is like, let me help you, like, or I'll tell you how you can do this, like, let's do this together. Another really important thing is to be niched. So if you have a general, people say, oh, I want to write a book for everybody. But if you write a book for everybody, nobody's going to read it. You have to write a book for a very specific audience. For instance, one of my clients right now is a veterinarian, and he is writing about how to buy a veterinarian hospital and have it make you a lot of money so that you can sell it later on. I mean, that's pretty specific. He's only going to appeal to veterinarians who want to buy hospitals. You know what I mean? So, but they'll be really happy his book exists, and they will buy it. You know what I mean? They'll get involved with him. They'll ask him for help because he's putting across his expertise and his stories. So, and expertise, you want to really make sure that you're demonstrating why these people should take your advice whatsoever. What else? Structuring, easy to read. You know what I mean? Like, point A goes to point B, goes to point C. Don't skip any concepts in your conclusion. Don't skip from the introduction to the conclusion. You have to explain it. So yeah, I would say those are probably the main things.
One thing that I noticed is and in the book writing, at least my perception is that you have one part of me thinks that you have to have a big followers, like, for, let's say, Jim Quick, like, who doesn't know who Jim Quick, he has already a following, and of course his books are people are waiting to read his books.
Yep.
But in your opinion, so do you feel that it's no longer, you don't have to have a following before writing a book? Or
no, absolutely not. I mean, it helps. It helps. Right. You know what I mean? Like, but people will make money on that book. They're not going to make money on the books. This is a big deal. You're not going to make money back on the book. I mean, some people might buy it, but with the money that you make, the return on investment that you get is from the speaking jobs that you can get from it, going on the podcasts, attracting the leads, being the expert, the person who wrote the book on it is what's going to attract people. Offering, advice and them seeing that, hey, this person knows what they're talking about. That's going to get you more leads. You know what I mean? That's really what the book does. Did I answer the question? I lost track of what I was saying.
No, that's exactly right. So you basically, it's more the following is not a deal breaker. Not having enough followers, not having an audience is not going to be a deal breaker for anybody that wants to write a book, which is very important. I feel there's a lot of misconception, including myself. I was on the fence. Well, I mean, is that going to be, if that's going to be something that the author is going to have to work on before writing a book, like we're thinking maybe.
Writing a book actually might help you build a following because it's part of branding. Excuse me. It's part of branding yourself. It is in the end, a very well-written marketing tool, right? You want it to be excellent, but in the end, it's driving the reader to your product or service or your website, whatever. But when you have a book, you get out, your face gets out there more. So you're going to go on, the speaking circuit or whatever. More people are going to become more familiar with you. If someone Googles how to do this and it happens to be your book that comes up, they're going to go to your site. You know what I mean? It will attract people. So you don't have to have a following already because this will help you build a following.
Oh, beautiful, brilliant. Yeah, it does. It does make sense. And I'm wondering, so if there's any questions, because I know we had a little a little tech glitch at the beginning. It's all good. We did it. And then let me go ahead. Let me see if there's anything in the chat, in the actual chat, that it's maybe there's some questions. By the way, while we have that, I definitely want the audience to have your information. So definitely towards the end, we're gonna share your information. How can they reach out to you if they have a question about the book writing business? No,
fantastic.
Yes. So one thing that I wanted to mention here, the procrastination. Before I forget, procrastination. It's one of those enemies, not only in the book writing, but I feel in general, right? In
life in general. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So have you had authors that I know I'm gonna give you a very open-ended question here, like people that they say, oh, I'm gonna write a book and they never did, or they decided to push themselves and write a book and they became a big success. So tell me those stories involving procrastination. Of course, if you can.
I hope you didn't. My computer just started talking to me, so I hope you didn't hear that. Not just my authors have trouble with procrastination. I have trouble with procrastination. Everybody has trouble with procrastination, right? I mean, we all do it. But the thing about procrastination is that it is the symptom, not the problem. The problem is that you're afraid. You're afraid of whatever it is that you're doing. And I know that sounds kind of funny, but it's something to think about. But why are you procrastinating? Why are you avoiding this task or whatever the case may be? So that's something to think about. Another thing I find is that helps is breaking it into smaller chunks. So you can just do, okay, well, I don't have to do that whole thing, because it's either fear or overwhelm, right? You're just like, I mean, I don't know about you, but if I have too many choices, like you go to the Cheesecake Factory, the menu has so, you're just like, I can't decide what.
Oh yeah, it's encyclopedia.
Yeah, exactly. There's just too many options. Like you're like, so
I agree with you, Jen. I have
yeah.
to have a list. I have my list, my daily list, and that's it. But yeah, moving on. Those tips are really, I can relate to them. To the presentation tips.
Definitely breaking it down. It makes it less overwhelming. And also, you could also, there's a technique called the Pomodoro technique, which is kind of funny. It's just about, the Pomodoro is Italian for tomato, and it was a timer that someone used, basically, that looked like a tomato. So you set a timer for 20 minutes and you work on it. You work on whatever it is for 20 minutes, and you tell yourself, okay, I can stop after 20 minutes, 25 minutes, whatever you want to put. You can do anything for 20 minutes, and then you can get up and take a break. So taking breaks is another big one. Allow yourself to take breaks and enjoy the break. That's
amazing. Another one that I wanted to point out that has actually been working for me is the reward system. A major project when you it's just the book writing context. Let's say if you finish a chapter, reward yourself. Something you simple as walking in the trails in nature, or have a nice ice cream, or any food of your choice. So reward yourself, like, yes, I did it, because that what it does, it fills you up for the next challenge and the next challenge, and before you know it, that also I feel it's working amazingly well. So true.
So true. Like if I sit down, and that's something I like do in my head too. It's like, okay, I have to finish this section. When the section is done, I can get up and walk around. But not until the section is done. I can go out for a walk. It'll be great. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Good. No, I hope. I wish there was a way to capture the questions, and I don't know, because of the setting, because we had to connect here through Zoom. I don't see any questions, but we'll hope that they will be able to reach out, maybe in the comments in the YouTube channel, and then of course reach out to you for any afterwards. Perfect. That's awesome. Now, so we also have a question here on authors that already have their book written. So let's say that somebody comes to you and say, Jen, have this book. I've been trying to push it through, and it's, can you help me? Can you offer those type of services or help for people that have already the book?
We are, right now, we're a relatively new company, so we have the one offering. We're expanding soon, and we'll be able to help people with that. My advice with that is, it depends on what stage you're at, right? If the book is already published, you got to find someone who's going to, whose work it is to promote people, or who there are people out there that will help get you on podcasts, that will help get you on stages. Just find those people. Right now, I don't have the resources to do that. Okay. But if you want to publish the book, you can do it on Amazon, and it's print on demand, so it makes it really easy. You don't have to order, like, because with other self-publishing companies, you would have to order like 100 copies or something like that to start out with. With Amazon, you can just, whoever wants it can just get it, or you can do the Kindle version. You know what I mean? So you can use that as a lead magnet. So there are some things that you can do with them.
That's awesome. And you know what I'm thinking too, as a new book writer, Amazon will be a testing ground. What better way, right, to put yourself out there than in Amazon? And that way, like you say, without having to incur the expense, they can go get out there and and give it a shot. You have already the book, you wrote it, you went through the long process. It's a great suggestion, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, and I was just thinking, if you haven't published it yet, you probably want to get an editor to look at it. And just because you don't have, if you're not an experienced writer, you don't have the objectivity to go through and be like, no, that's not a good sentence. you know, or the worst part is to kill your darlings. That's what it's called in writing. It's when you come up with something that you really love. You're like, oh, that sounds so good, but because of how things are structured or whatever, there's a reason you have to get rid of it. Like you have to get rid of it. It kills you as a writer. You're like, oh.
Oh wow! So didn't know that. It's like kill your darlings.
Kill your darlings, yeah. So it's something you have to do. You have to be ready and willing to sacrifice some of your work, or change some of your work. That's a problem I see a lot of. When people write, they're very attached to it, and I get it. You put yourself into it. But if you want it to be good and you're not experienced, and even if you are, honestly, you should get an editor, because you need another set of eyes on it. You have to get in touch with somebody who can. Ideally, you would get in touch with someone who can do that for you.
Absolutely, and adding to that, even if it's something a children's book, people think that children's book it's those probably
they're harder.
Yeah, talk to me. A children's book is very. I'm curious about that. It's another animal. I don't know from what we have talked before. Talk to me about children's book. Is that the harder? Why? What do you suggest with children's books?
Children's books. Okay, so I have actually written and illustrated a children's book, but I never got it published. I haven't gotten it published yet. I can do it from Amazon now that I'm thinking about it.
There you go. Now we see you bestseller of the year, Jen. That's
right. And all of a sudden
you're starting here.
Yeah, right. That's a good one. But there was it E.B. White? There was a famous writer who had a quote that basically, I'm paraphrasing here, is like, he wrote a letter to a friend in the 1800s, you know, back when they wrote letters. And he's like, sorry, I don't have the time to write you a shorter letter. So so when you write a letter, when you write something, shorter things are actually more difficult, because long you can just blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? But like, it's actually, you want it to be clear and concise. You need to get rid of all the words you don't need. You got to get rid of any repetition. You know what I mean? You have to draw your point from A to B in as few words as you can. You know what I mean? And still make it sound good. So when you're writing a children's book, you're not going to be writing paragraphs. You write a couple of lines on a page, you know, and maybe they rhyme. Like, that makes it even more hard, you know. And you have to sort of be able to picture in your head what even if you're not going to be the one illustrating it, you have to sort of figure out, like, what do I want here? You know what I mean? So there are a lot of more restrictions that you put on yourself with something like a children's book. The good thing is, I have always found that the more restriction and constricted you are, the more creative you get, because you have to solve the problems that you would never have come up with a solution if you didn't come up against this obstacle.
If you were not, you are in that situation. Yeah, you're right. Pressure, you're working under pressure, pretty much,
Mm-hmm.
under a set, a very strict limitation. So your brain starts thinking, no, we have to find a way around this, and it does. It actually does. It's true.
It makes you more creative. I love it. I mean, put those restrictions on yourself. I mean, that's why outlines are great. You know what I mean? Like, just focus.
Exactly. So we also have, I noticed to a trend in the YouTube world, a lot of recipes, a lot of they cook with people that come out with their own recipe books. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, is that something that, for example, it could take years? Have you worked, is recipe books on your alley, or no? More to
They're not really, but if you're talking about, I mean, I can give you some general ideas. Like, if you're talking about if they take years, if you're developing the recipes and the recipes take years to develop, then yeah, it'll take years. But if you have the recipes already, pretty quick.
What have been any stories of authors that you thought, or they the expectation was that when the book was published was going to be, it was going to do well, but then all of a sudden it became something like, wow, like people were grabbing it, and you had the buzz was in because of that book. Like, any surprises? That's what I'm trying to
Any
get.
surprises? Not yet. We're still in a young company, so we don't have a ton of things published quite yet. But yeah, I mean, there's one that we're kind of waiting to see that we kind of think is going to be a bigger one, and we're kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with it.
Okay, well, when you just keep us posted when you're out there, we'll be happy to take a look too. Definitely.
I don't know if you'd be interested in it.
Well,
starting a medical clinic. Yeah, right. Starting a medical clinic. So this one guy, it's again very niche. Like, if you're a medical professional looking to start a medical clinic, this is the book that you would read. You know what I mean? So you might not be interested.
Yeah. Unless it has computers, it's a medical clinic, hospital, like ER for printer computers and Excel and all that. I'm in. I'm
all right.
Person. So now, when you have somebody that wants to work with you, that they're excited, they want to get their book out there, what are the steps? How you walk them through the process?
We have a very specific process. Let me just take a sip of water. We have a very specific process that I came up with. So I'm not going to give too much of that away, but the way that we have a format, and the format goes across the board. It applies to everybody. We do 12 chapters. So the middle 6, 4 through 9, we use for, like, what are you teaching? These are your 6 tips or tricks. These are your 6 steps. These are your 6 concepts, your precepts, like whatever it is that you're teaching. The body of the book is that's what it is. And then the last part of the book, the 3, so you start with the body, right? You don't start in the beginning. People think you start at the beginning. Don't start at the beginning. Then you go to the last part after you're done with the body, and you talk about things like empowering people and what your next steps should be. And that's really where you drive the people to your product. And you can see it throughout the book, but that's kind of where you're like, oh, I would love to, if you have more questions, I would love to help you. And then you go back to the beginning and you write the introduction, because you can't write an introduction for something that you don't know what it's going to be yet. And as you put the outline out there as much as you can, but books take on their own minds. They go places, and you're like, oh, I didn't know that was going to happen. So you want to have all that information before you go and you introduce it.
Yes, and speaking of that, do you have any favorite authors or books that you like to read about?
Favorite authors? Oh my God, it's unfortunately been so long since I've read fiction. I love fiction, but I haven't read it in a really long time. I mean, this is a little cliche, but Jane Austen is one of my favorites. I mean, like, you can't fault any of her work. Yeah, like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I like a lot of 1800s stuff when people were just kind of like exploring new ideas. And writing books were becoming more widely available. More people knew how to read, and it was for pleasure. So you get these great stories. Anything with a great story. I mean, because I'll read Dan Brown too. You know what I mean? Like, anything that has a great story, I'm going to read.
Yeah, I feel that the majority of us is the same way. You're reading through, even if it's something, those emails that you get, right, that you get bombarded with every day. When you see the catchy story, you keep on reading, and you're like, oh, okay, let me keep scrolling. What happens next? So I'm with you 100% on that. And so, and speaking of that, speaking of the books and the papers, so by the way, as much as I adore technology, I still feel the joy and love going to a library and the smell of books and actually pages. I
smell of books. I love the smell of
books, right? Am I the only one here?
No. It's an awesome smell. I love it. I wish I could put it in a bottle.
And those, I mean, at some point, you know how your brain can connect the smells with good feelings, and that for me is learning. You're smelling, learning. You're getting better by smelling that. And so I don't know, and this is more like a subjective question. Nobody knows the answer, but do you feel we are heading to, in the future, libraries? What's going to be next for the libraries? Are they going to be all Kindles? Are they going to maybe disappear? I would like, this is one of the questions, by the way, Jen, that I wish the audience was with us. I would like to ask them, what do they think? This had something that's going to, I mean, I don't want to say die, maybe diminish or go down, or, you know what I mean? What do you think?
Well, first there's you have apps like Libby, right, where they're connected to all these different libraries, and you can go on and reserve a book and, you know, get the e-version or get the Audible version. That's one avenue, and it's really convenient. Libraries are a quiet space. I mean, like, this is my opinion. A lot of times I think with this new technology going as fast as it does, you know, it'll replace something, and then people, like, after the newness has worn off, they're like, you know what? I like that other thing better. Like, so, you know, I feel like that happens quite a bit. I wonder if that's going to happen with AI before they take over and kill us all. But,
oh my God, it's so funny that.
Don't even get me started on the robot revolution that's coming. But the library is a safe space, right? It's a quiet space. It's you can go there and get work done. I certainly have used it for a workspace before. There's a wealth of knowledge. There are things that you might not have ever found. I mean, again, with the choices, right? You put, like, into the search engine, you know, a book about gardening. I don't know. You know what I mean? But there are books that aren't going to come up, or there's 500 billion of them that come out. You're just like, I don't even. You know, like,
I know.
But if you go to the library, you can kind of, like, look through them and kind of see what's there. See if there's anything that you'd like. You know, I think that libraries are not going to go away. And kids go to them. I still bring kids to them. I know my niece and my nephew, they're like, oh, we get to go to the library and we take out these books. And they were so excited when they got their library card. You know what I mean? It's like, it's cute. It's cute.
It is true. I tell you a story about that. My son, I remember we used to go to the library, and one of the rewards, right, was that we would go to the library and he would love the anime stories. They have all the collection of the anime, and you could see his eyes like, whoa, all the One Piece and what have you that's there. And that was, to me, that was one of those memories. So libraries, not only, at least in my experience, is good for the learning and what you say, the safe space, but also you bring memories there, especially if you have children. And that was that was a highlight of his day. And I remember him coming back. I'm like, are you gonna read all those books? Like, they got, like 10, because 20, and what, 2 were not enough, so it had to be 10. But it's definitely, I feel that if we as parents, or maybe brothers, sisters, we can foster that love for books, or like bring them, let's go hang out, or let's try let's go to the library, they have something going on, and kind of like push that. So we have always the love of books, flipping pages, and
yes, yeah, no, I totally agree. It's the other thing too, though, is that a real life in-person experience is always going to be better than sitting behind your computer or sitting with your device. Kids these days don't get enough sensory input. You know, they just like swipe, whatever. They're born with it in their hand, and there's an advantage to that. They certainly, I mean, I'm getting to the age where I'm like my 12-year-old niece, I'm like, come over here. Explain this to me. You know what I mean? And she's like, okay, Auntie Jen. But I think that you can't replace the feeling of holding a book and reading it. You know, I personally much prefer than reading on it. I mean, if I have to read on the Kindle app, I'll read it on the Kindle app or whatever, but I much prefer sitting down and cozying. There's nothing like cozying up with a book. You know what I mean? Like my blanket on me and on a rainy day, get some tomato soup or some hot chocolate.
Chocolate. That was like my connection. Hot chocolate. Combination there.
That's one of the great things about living. I live up in the Northeast, and it gets cold here, and it's nice to have those cold days, because that's when you get to be cozy and warm. You know what I mean? That's when you can read it's really fun to read a book. But
no, and they tell you it's also the things that bring books to life is that when you read something like, oh, that's a good way of seeing things, or oh, I didn't know you could do that. Oh, okay, I'll try that. So it's always, again, hopefully, like you say, it always stays on the passion for books, and we have more book readers, especially for our young readers. And that's a big step. That will be a big step. And like you say, not so much balance it out, the technology with the books, the life, the sensory, right?
Yes.
Experience that you get from everything books related.
yeah. I mean, like you said, the smell, right? The feel, the reading it and turning the page. It involves more of your brain, honestly, and it's gonna help the information stick more than if you're just reading it on a Kindle.
Yes, actually, I saw Jen the other day an article that they were taking pictures of the brain when they read, and then when they are just looking at a computer or watching a movie. And it was so interesting to me to see how the brain, when you actually reading, it does have a lot of the blue, all of the neurons, everything is like glowing. Like your brain actually glows when you read. Like, how cool is that? And it's in pictures.
Cool. Yeah, it's so cool. It's so cool. I mean, reading stimulates a lot more. There's a lot more global things that have to happen in order for you to be, it uses your language area. You know what I mean? It uses, because you imagine it read. I mean, you don't just look at the page, right? You're reading it to yourself in your head. You know what I mean? So there's the auditory center too that kind of gets lit up, and like it's a global experience, and with a book you have even more.
Excellent. No, and like I mentioned here, the book for all of everybody that has their own business, that they want to get themselves out there. What better way, especially if you're a shy person, like if you're on the introverted side, go write a book. I mean, we have Jen, your information is most essential. So I guess you can tell them your website or your email information. We're live, so they can go back and replay it. Write it down. Sorry.
The best way to reach me would be email, and that's Jennifer, JENNIFER, at Jen's Pen Books. So that's Jen, JENS. Pen, one pen, PEN books, BOOKS.com. That's probably the best way to reach me if you want to reach out to me. We are working on our webpage, and we do have a Facebook page that you can find, just Jen's Pen Books. You'll find it.
Excellent. So let me tell you, it was such a productive session. And by the way, I have this session with you in my bucket list for a long, long time, because I was mentioned before. Not only, I mean, you're amazing. I mean, you could feel it, what you do. No, seriously, like, you could see that you really enjoy your craft. This is your north, the book writing. And I have had people, clients that have asked, hi, by any chance, I'm writing a book. Do you know somebody that knows that can help me? They ask me, I'm like, no, I don't know. I know nothing, please. And I hope this video also gives them an insight of what to expect, right? When they start this journey, and obviously the joy and the satisfaction and the reward that comes, that might not be aligned to what they have in mind, but it's still so big that it's worth a try. It's really worth a try.
You know what, too? I'll in a little while, I'll put a link in the comments or wherever this is showing up, to what we call our book writing blueprint. So that information that I was telling you about the 12 chapters and what goes in all of them, I can get that. People can kind of download that for free if they would like.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, any closing words, any last tips, any last words of wisdom from Jen Spencer?
Writing, I love, like, writing is great. It's amazing. Some people don't like to do it. So if you don't want to do it, you don't have time to do it, or you can't do it, find someone to help you. And like I said, like, get an editor. If you've written a book, get an editor.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So anyways, look, we are going to definitely share the information at the comments, and also if you can send me the blueprint, I can share it also with my audience, with also everybody that subscribed to our emails. And
Fantastic.
definitely it was, thank you, Jens, for being here once for the millionth time.
It's been my pleasure. My pleasure. This has been a lot of fun.
Yes, yes. And those of you who probably wonder, okay, so what about technology? Where's this technology channel? This is a technology channel. I'll tell you this. When you're going to write a book, there's going to be so much technology involved in that process that you won't. Besides what we mentioned, ChatGPT, part of it, not all of it. Yeah. So another few tips that I wanted to throw out there with the writing, how to write a book. You can use tools like Grammarly.
Yes. Grammarly is
no
great.
worries. I felt that so we want to definitely use Grammarly if you feel that you want that little extra person. But I also say, well, like Jen said, get a human editor.
Yes.
Human, please.
Grammarly is great, but don't go through it and just audit, like, check, because sure, spelling, but if it changes the words, you don't know if that's the emphasis you want. And sometimes it's wrong. To be honest with you, sometimes it's wrong. So you have to check each change before you okay it.
Yeah, no, it happened to me too. That I'm like, no, I want to say this. Why you want me to change it? And I'm like, no, ignore.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so well, we have already covered a lot about book writing. For those of you who are still here, we want to thank you so much for being with us, for your support. We definitely looking forward. In the comments, you can type any remaining questions that perhaps you wanted to ask today and you couldn't. That's fine. We got you covered. Write them on the YouTube channel, on the comments, also our Instagram page. And once again, we want to thank you for being here. So Jen, I am going to disconnect, so stay with me. So we're going to end this live session, but we want to, again, thank you so much for all of you, including you, Jen, and you have a wonderful weekend. All right. All right, so we're going to disconnect.